Announcements none. Papers have been laid. Question.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have given private notice to a question addressed to the Prime Minister to ask the Honourable Prime Minister, Minister of Defence, Home Affairs and External Communication, and Minister for Rodrigue, Outer Islands and Territorial Integrity, whether, in regard to the alleged corrupt and fraudulent practices unfolded by the African Development Bank concerning the tender for the redevelopment of the Saint-Louis Power Station, he will state, A, if he was informed that an inquiry had been initiated thereinto, indicating if his office was solicited to provide any assistance in connection therewith, and B, if his office has been communicated with the adverse integrity report, indicating if he has measured the expected impact thereof on the credibility of Mauritius vis-à-vis the international financial institutions and the international community.
Mr. Speaker, sir, in the afternoon of 8th of June last, the Deputy Prime Minister informed me that the African Development Bank had announced the debarment of Burmeister and Wain, Scandinavian contractor, for a period of 21 months for engaging in sanctionable practices in a power generation project financed by the AFDB in Mauritius. He forwarded me a copy, and I saw that the press release was to the effect that Burmeister Wain and Wain Scandinavian Company had been debarred for a period of 21 months pursuant to a settlement agreement between the bank and that company. The reason advanced for that debarment was that the company had, according to the bank, engaged in sanctionable practices in a power generation project financed by the bank in Mauritius. The press release states that in 2014 and 2015, BWSC participated in tenders for the redevelopment of the Saint-Louis power plant in Mauritius, a project funded by the bank. It further states that an investigation conducted by the bank's Office of Integrity and Anti-Corruption had concluded that it is more likely than not that the company engaged in fraudulent and corrupt practices in the context of this project. The press release further states that, and I quote, evidence supports a finding that Burmeister and Wain, on a balance of probabilities, financially rewarded members of the Mauritian administration and others through the intermediary of third parties for providing access to confidential tender-related information which allowed them to tailor the technical specifications of the tenders to its offering, thus gaining an undue competitive advantage over other tenderers, unquote. I am tabling a copy of that press release. In regard to part A of the question, I was not informed that an inquiry had been initiated, nor was my office solicited to provide assistance. In regard to part B of the question, my office has not been provided with a report of the Office of Integrity and Anti-Corruption of the African Development Bank. I am informed that the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Development on 9th of June 2020 requested a copy of the report on the investigation. On the following day, the bank replied that as per its guidelines and policies, investigation reports compiled by its Office of Integrity and Anti-Corruption are confidential in nature and cannot be shared outside of a referral process to law enforcement authorities. I am further informed that on the 9th of June 2020, the CB has referred the matter to ICAC for investigation in accordance with sections 44.1 and 46.1e of the Prevention of Corruption Act. Mr. Speaker, sir, as soon as I became aware of the press release, I caused my office to start an assessment of the impact of this matter. I have to point out that the acting general manager of the CB has agreed to inform the board of his intention to step aside from his current position pending further development. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have to stress in the strongest terms that this government, just as the previous government, has adopted a zero-tolerance policy against corruption. The House and the population may rest assured that our fight against fraud and corruption shall continue relentlessly and without fear or favor. Tough and stringent actions, as may be warranted by the ICAC inquiry, will be taken against any person who is found to have been involved in any of the alleged acts of corruption.
Because of the Prime Minister is underestimating the gravity of what I would term the Saint-Louis Development Gate. The gravity of which cannot be underestimated because the people in the rank and file of his government who are directly involved in this. Can I ask Prime Minister, why is it that his Deputy Prime Minister didn't bring to his attention an exchange of correspondence between the CEO of BWSC and Mr. Makun, highlighting the problem since a year ago in relations to fraudulent practices, Mr. Speaker, sir, and corrupt practices, since a year. And you are telling me that you're a Prime Minister whose ambition is to wage war on corruption and fraud, when next to him, sitting next to him, is a gentleman who is involved in fraudulent practices, Mr. Speaker, sir. Well, I will table this paper.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is asking me whether the Deputy Prime Minister was aware of a correspondence. I mean, the question should have been addressed to him, for him to answer. And I must say that I don't think that he was aware of such a correspondence. Otherwise, this matter would have been brought to the level of government for any action to be taken.
I thank the Prime Minister for being, I take it for granted that he's honest in his reply. Can I ask him whether the Ministry of Public Utilities does not have a representative sitting on the board of CB?
Yes, they have a representative.
Did that member not report to the senior chief executive, who would in turn inform the Deputy Prime Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm not aware what has been, whether anything has been reported. Let me answer. You asked your question. I didn't. So I'm not aware what has been reported to the board of the CB for members of the board to become aware so that they can, according to their responsibility, relay any information to the ministry.
Quiet here, order.
Mr. Speaker, can I ask Prime Minister whether he's aware that the chairman of Central Electricity Board not only is a member of the political party of the Deputy Prime Minister, but he's also chairman of the Central Electricity Board, and I would have taken it for granted that the matter was raised, discussed with him, and knowing that he has close relationship with the Deputy Prime Minister, am I to understand that the matter was not raised there and then with the Deputy Prime Minister? Can he feign ignorance on this?
Well, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is saying, I take it for granted. Well, that is why I say, we must find out whether anything has been, in fact, reported to the board. I don't have this information. I cannot say whether it has been reported or it has not been reported. We'll find out.
Is Prime Minister aware, and I'm sure Prime Minister took cognizance of a question put in this very House by Honorable Bashir Jangir, where the Deputy Prime Minister refused to table the tender analysis report of this corrupt contract. Not only that, instruction was given to give a certificate of urgency for the project to go ahead.
As far as I know, there was no certificate of urgency. There was? Well, I will have to find out about the information that you are relaying to me. I don't have all this information.
And is he aware that the difference between the company which was awarded the contract and the next is more than 700 million rupees? Is he aware of that?
Well, I will have to find out.
Honorable Bhagwan.
Prime Minister aware that this is what has been highlighted by the African Bank of Development. And not only that, African Bank of Development has an observer status at the Financial Action Task Force. Can I ask Prime Minister whether he's aware of that?
Well, from the information that I have up to now, I don't have anything to say that the African Development Bank has highlighted the fact that there was a difference in the first tenderer and the others. I don't have any comment from the ADB on that issue. What I know, what I have been informed, because I just gathered the information from the different quarters concerned, is that there was an initial tender that was carried on in 2014, and that tender was annulled because the Central Procurement Board found that it was not appropriate to award the contract to the supposed to be successful tenderer, and thereafter there was another process that was carried out in order to allocate the contract to the successful tenderer. So from what I gather, there was some certain things. Because I don't have all the information with regard to the first tender process, but from what I've been told, the ADB, the African Development Bank, was fully involved in drafting the specifications and in assisting throughout for the process in order to have this allocation to be made.
Is Prime Minister aware that the report concluded that the contractor has paid officials and others through intermediaries in order to have access to confidential information? Has he been made aware of this, and has there been an inquiry conducted in respect of who is the agent, who is the one who's distributing the money around?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I only have information as per the press release of the 8th of June of this year. I don't have any other report in my possession. So if the Honorable Leader of the Opposition has the report itself, I shall be very grateful to him if I can be communicated with a copy of that report.
The truth is in the report, and can I invite the Prime Minister to address this matter very seriously, because we know who is the intermediary, and the intermediary is well known to the Deputy Prime Minister, and he's well known. And if you want to, I can drop the name of the intermediary in respect of the amount of money that has been distributed.
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, sir, as soon as I became aware of this press release, we have caused a communication to the African Development Bank so that we may be provided with details pertaining to the allegation that has been made. I have just answered, we had a reply that this information cannot be communicated unless there is an authority which is carrying out an inquiry, and that authority, of course, I don't go into the process of how they are going to obtain the evidence, but I'm sure they will have to ask a request for this report. The way the Honorable Leader of the Opposition is asking questions, he has information. Please, give it to me. And if you have names, you have how much money has been given and so on, please, you
Speaker,
give
sir,
we'll hand over to ICAC also.
If there is honesty of purpose and Prime Minister is willing to have access to information, can I ask him to see to it that a proper inquiry is conducted and not leave it to independent, to ICAC to conduct the inquiry, which is not a respected law enforcement agency? Can I ask Prime Minister, if there is honesty of purpose, to invite, first of all, to invite his Deputy Prime Minister to step down, the chairman of CB to step down, the lady who's member of the IRP, Ms. Christelle Sohan, to step down, and also the acting director of CB and board members of CB. And can I ask him if he's willing to put his best endeavor to wage war on fraud and corruption, to set up a commission of inquiry chaired by a sitting judge to enlighten this country on this mega scandal called the Saint-Louis Gate, Mr. Prime Minister. It's up to you to do that.
Well, again, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, I do understand that he wants so many people to step down. But, I mean, as a matter of principle, I have acted...
Quiet.
I have always acted on the basis of principle. Let us see what evidence we have, if there is any prima facie case, and then whoever...
Honorable Bagwan, you don't have the right to speak. Do you know your standing order? I'm not sure you know your standing order. You're just kidding in Parliament. You're kidding in Parliament. Obstructing the proceedings of Parliament. Yeah, you're obstructing the proceedings. You behave yourself. 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 Now I ask you to withdraw from the chamber. I ask you to withdraw from the chamber. Order! Order! Leader of the opposition, continue your work.
Don't shout at me.
I'm not shouting at you. I am guiding you.
All right. Calm down. Can I asked Prime Minister whether he's willing to address this issue very forcefully. I've asked for a commission of inquiry. And if there is honesty of purpose, and I'm sure, I'm not saying that Prime Minister is willing to cover up anybody, far from that. But can I?
I am listening to that. You don't address me like that.
Can I reiterate what I said? I know Prime Minister had a phone conversation with the President of the EU Council. And I also can say what the outcome has been. This PNQ is an opportunity to restore the image of this country. And if Prime Minister is willing to restore the image of this country, I appeal to him yet again to set up this commission of inquiry and to see to it that this minister steps down for fraudulent practices.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
You need a reply? Do you need a reply?
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is confusing matters between
Do you need a reply? You listen to your reply?
I did. When you were asking questions, I haven't interrupted you. At least listen to my reply. So, good for him if he knows my conversation between myself and Honourable Michel. Okay.
You want me to suspend the sitting? You don't have to make any comment. And I don't listen to your comment. You're nothing. Order! Order!
So my conversation with Mr. Michel pertains to the EU listing of Mauritius. It has nothing to do with this matter, because the EU listing concerns the anti-money laundering and the combating of financing of terrorism, which is a totally different subject altogether. So you should not be mixing issues. I agree that this communication from the ADB is a very serious matter indeed. And you can rest assured that as soon as this was publicly, it was publicized, I, of course, will be looking, I'm already looking into this matter, and whatever decision will have to be taken, ultimately will be taken.
Mr. Speaker, can I reiterate what I said? And I don't want any perception of cover-up from this government. It's an opportunity for Prime Minister to set up this commission of inquiry, and I invite him to do so. And let me remind him, in relation to his select committee which was set up concerning the gas turbine project, at least Sir Anirudh Jagannath had the decency to set up this select committee. Can I appeal to the Prime Minister yet again to set up this commission of inquiry and invite his Deputy Prime Minister and others to step down? Because the word administration is stated in this press report and in this press communique. And administration means SEBI, the ministry, the minister, and others who are guilty of impropriety.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I can assure the Honourable Leader of the Opposition that government will take whatever decision in order to shed light on this matter.
And in the meantime, I hope none of these essential documents disappear.
This is not a question, this is just a remark. Honourable Team.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, in this August Assembly, on the 1st of April 2015, the Honourable Leader of Opposition asked a specific question whether there is going to be a police inquiry in respect to the award of the contract to BWSC. The then minister, who is still the minister, he said no, he's looking forward. Then in November 28, 2017, Honorable Jahangir again said that it's not possible that the same company is getting awarded the contract for the past 15 years. And again, the Deputy Prime Minister didn't do anything. Last year, the CB had a report from the ADB that this company is involved in corrupt practice. Again, the Deputy Prime Minister does anything. So he has been covering up for BWSC. So is the Honourable Prime Minister today going to tell to the nation that he's going to cover up his Deputy Prime Minister, or he's going to sanction him?
Well, Honorable Utim, let me remind you what Honorable Béranger said with regard to the tender process that started under the Labour PMSD government. Let me quote.
Order.
Let me quote.
Order.
Now there is a government that wants to have good governance all over the place. My information was that there was a change in the specifications after the tender had come out, tailor-made. Not everybody, but some people in the Central Electricity Board, to suit the purposes of those people and favorisera a given contractor. This was the comments made by Honorable Béranger.
Order.
So, Mr. Speaker, I again say that inquiry has already started. We will see about the outcome, and there's going to be not only no cover-up, no perception of cover-up.
Honorable
The
Boulel.
Prime Minister, can I ask Prime Minister to be faithful and not to give the impression that he's misleading the House? In respect of that particular contract, it was annulled, it was cancelled at the time of the government.
Yes, do you know why it was annulled? Do you know? You seem to be so much
You have
informed.
to listen to the reply, Honorable
African
Leader of the
Development
Opposition.
Bank, African Development Bank
You are
objected.
misbehaving, Leader of the Opposition.
Let me answer. You've been saying
You
so
are
much.
misbehaving.
Why can't you listen to, you put a question, you don't want to listen to my answer. Why? You know why? Because African Development Bank, on the eve of general election, objected that this
Honorable
contract
Mohammed.
be awarded. And
Honorable Boulel.
and
listen
you know
to
on
the
what
reply to
basis?
your question. This is
Not
parliamentary
covering
manner.
up. I am uncovering what has been done
Second
under
Leader
your
of the
government.
Opposition.
And Mr. Speaker, sir, the it was
Maybe the member doesn't need a reply. Maybe he doesn't need a reply.
Mr. Speaker, sir,
Order!
Mr.
Honorable Boulel, you ask a question, listen to the reply. You don't shout in this. You understand this is standing order. Don't shout. Okay, you listen. You listen to the reply of the Prime Minister. You listen to the reply. I suspend the sitting.